thank you for the kind words. So let me back up and tell you a little bit. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been looking for a 12-step program to get out. I haven't found one yet, so I just continue to succumb to my addiction. I started my first business when I was 27, which as of today is 29 years ago. So my birthday's today. Thank you. And so I've been in technology, I've been a consultant, I've exited successfully a number of times, and now I'm at that stage where I'm just doing what I love to do, which is help other people be successful. In the process of doing that with IUVO, I had a client, we were doing some consulting with a client, and they were in the fitness business actually, and the guy came to me and said, hey Scott, we got to figure out some new marketing strategies, and we're brainstorming around it, and the idea of doing a video came up. And so we went out and we hired a production company, spent $5,000–$10,000 on this video, and when the producer came back, he handed me a thumb drive, and I said, what do I do with this now? And he said, I don't know, put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook, or put it on Vimeo. And I'm like, you need to have a better answer than that. Then I started reviewing his invoice, and I realized that he didn't really identify how much time or effort or energy he put into it. He just wrote a number on the invoice, and so I was like, there's a better business model there. So today, V-Link Solutions is my passion. I still consult with a couple of companies, but that's my passion on the business side. We produce 1,500 plus videos a year. We have a studio 2 exits north of here, or 3 exits north of here. We have another studio in Alpharetta. We work with clients as large as Google and as small as Gary. So I like to say Google to Gary. We did a ton of projects last year with Google, all around their Jamboard technology, which is a really cool collaborative smart board. Think 55-inch iPad connected to the cloud. And then we did Gary, and Gary is a wealth manager, and we did a short little series of 5 or 6 videos for him. So you'll learn a little bit more about that as I go along. I do like to say that we really want to make sure that we're helping you get that video seen. So we're not just a production company. The job's not done unless somebody watched it. So enough about me, or enough about our company. I'm going to fly through about an hour's, maybe 45 minutes worth of content to you guys, and that way we'll have plenty of time for questions. But please, if you have any questions that pop up, just ask, and I'll be glad to shift. So one of the things that we do as a company is our clients come to us as content marketers and they're marketers, and they're trying to figure out, how do I make my content more engaging and stickier? And so we coined the phrase, more play for your video, more pause for your message. So as I get into the meat of this, the handout that I put in front of everyone that looks something like this, in a few minutes you'll be able to follow along with me on the inside. But I'm not quite there yet. So, all right. So more play for your video, more pause for your message. And so here's the way, and I did get to watch Ken's part of Ken's video and learn kind of his perspective on marketing's role. I simplify my view of marketing's role. It's 2 things. It's to create awareness of your brand and therefore attract new customers, and it's to support sales. And it's that easy. People, they need to find out about you, and then salespeople need the tools to be able to generate more business. Their role is not to put your branding on a billboard on a dirt road, because nobody's ever going to see it. So you want to always try to help them, and your marketing folks always need to think about who's going to be driving past our branding message and our communications. So as of the time that this report was done, there were over 20 million emails have been written in the time that you just taken to look at this. This is actually a couple of years old. And so the number of emails that are sent out are bombarding us. It's just become a huge sea of static. On average, I get, like a lot of office people, I get about 225 emails a day. I'm clearly not reading them all. In 2017, there were 269 billion emails sent. So that's a lot of noise going in inboxes. Average office worker is spending 2.5 hours reading and replying to emails. Now, some of those are important, but a lot of them are not. And so the goal of good content is to get above the static. YouTube, we're in the video space. I pay attention to what's going on YouTube. There are 400 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. In the time that I will talk to you, which is about 60 minutes, there will be more content uploaded to YouTube than all of the major television and cable networks have produced in the last 60 years. 94% of business marketers are using LinkedIn to distribute content. 65%, 66% are using Twitter. 95 million people are uploading photos every day, and that number's grown, by the way. This is an old slide. 65 million businesses have Facebook pages. There is a lot of noise. So, you guys are going to recognize this individual, right? Yeah. The most interesting man in the world. He's hiding. He's hiding there. He actually showed up in a Bud Light commercial or a Miller Lite commercial. But anyway, I grabbed his picture and I made my own meme. And the reality is that I don't always look at your content, but when I do, it better be interesting, right? So that's what we mean. When we say more play for more pause, we're talking about pausing, stopping. That's important. I need to remember that. So I'm getting to the part now where you guys need to start remembering what I'm saying. All right, so I want you to pause a second, look at the first page of that sheet, and I'll tell you exactly what we're going to go. We're going to walk through this pretty quick. So if you're going to create content that people are going to pay attention to, you got to know who you're talking to. So let me give you a quick story or an example. So how many of you recognize this ad campaign? Some of us that are over 50 should recognize this. Some of us under 50 might recognize it. So this was an ad campaign from the 60s and the 70s and even into the 80s about the Ad Council and the Keep America Beautiful Foundation or Incorporation. They put out these series of ads that had this guy that looked like an Indian. He's actually Italian. But he was always sad, and he made you feel so emotional. He made you feel bad. It's like, man, I got to pick up my yard. I got to quit throwing stuff out of my speedboat into the rivers, and those kind of things. But the guy that's driving this pickup truck, and we'll name him Bubba, doesn't really care about this emotional ploy of this Indian. So what Texas did is they rebranded this campaign about 10 years ago and called it Don't Mess with Texas. Do you think Bubba understood Don't Mess with Texas? He's like, don't mess with Texas. I'm a Texan, right? But not only that, he eats a lot of fast food. So it's takeout, not toss out. So what they did is they took the same concept and they retailored it to the audience. And so it's super critical for you to understand who your audience is. So when we're working with our clients and helping them try to determine who their audience is and how to create their audiences, then we run them through a series of short little exercises. And I'm going to take you guys through the things we do, but not do it with you. So anytime you see this little brain thing here, that's an exercise that we do when we're doing what we call the pause planning session. So the first thing we would do with a client is we'd say bring 5 to 6 of your leaders inside the company and let's sit down for half a day and really investigate who your clients are and what type of content is going to be interesting to them. And step 1, as I said earlier, is know your audience. So we say, who's watching? And so what we would do is we would go around the room and let everyone tell us who's watching. And we would continue to do that until we've exhausted the list. And we're going to look at customers, of course, and we're going to look at other types of people. And we just get as detailed and as specific as we can. And it may take 5 minutes, it may take 10 minutes to get around the room 2 or 3 times. And then what we do is we'll say, all right, well, let's look at this audience, let's look at this list, and let's think about who are buyers in the audience group, who are influencers that we've been talking about, who are the observers, and observers would be people that are like industry experts or other people that are just paying attention to what you're doing, but may not be buyers or influencers. They could be press, right? So who are the buyers and who are the influencers and who are the observers? Influencers, of course, are like in the jewelry business, because in the other group there was a jeweler, it would be the wife is influencing the husband what to buy, right? And it could be a purchasing person is A manager is influencing the purchasing department. So you got to think about those two different audiences. But guess who else is looking at your content? Your competitors. So we go back to that list and say, did we miss any? Do we have any observers we missed? Do we have any buyers that we missed? Do we have any observers? Do we have any competitors that we missed? And then we have what we call learners. So learners would be, if you are training employees, then they're learners. And a lot of times we forget that our employees, we're trying to teach them about what we do or trying to improve their skill set. And so they are another type of audience. And then if you have customers, end users for software, for example, you have to have content to help your end users use your product better. And so in about 10 minutes, we go back and we look at, off of this first list, who did we miss and who do we need to add, and what are the different types of audiences. And all of this is to make us thinking like our buyers, right? And thinking about our audience. Then we go through and we score them. So we begin to prioritize those guys so that we can select who are the absolute most important. Because I can't create a message that communicates to everyone, right? But I do want to communicate to the most important ones. So I have to understand who the most important are. And then we help them go through a buyer's personas exercise, where we really do define what is this. Like in our case, we're B2B. We're looking for marketing departments that have budget. So what does the manager of that look like? Well, typically it's a lot of women, to be honest. So we would put a picture of a woman and they would say, they might be in their late 30s or early 40s. By the time they get there, their title is VP or Director of Marketing or CMO. And they probably have a family at home. And they may have 2 kids and their husband works. And we begin to describe as much detail as we can about them. What are their goals? What are their frustrations? We really try to dive into the thought process and the persona of that buyer. And that's super critical, because if we want to make our content interesting, we have to understand who our audience is. We have to know as much as we can about them. You even want to know where are they going to find your content, what's important to them. Millennials is a large group of buyers today. I heard a stat just yesterday from somebody that there are more millennials in China than there are Americans. Like total. Like more millennials in China alone than there are all Americans in the United States, all the US citizens. So millennials consume a lot of content online. And what's interesting is that they will share content if it's thought-provoking and intelligent. They will not share it if it sucks. They just won't. 41% of millennials say that the main reason they abandon the content is it's too long. Some of you guys may use Twitter. Twitter is short sound bites. It's 245 characters. I mean, you can't say a whole lot in that. Snapchat's even shorter than that. And that's what millennials are beginning to consume data on. I got asked the question last week, and I've been asked it many times. What's the average viewer watch? 87 seconds. We stream tens of thousands of views every month, and I don't care how long the videos are. We look at it and we go back. The average is between 85 and 90 seconds every time that they ever watch. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-minute video or if it's a 3-minute video. They drop off all about the same time. So that's really important to know. Length is, now there are places where you can force people to watch longer videos and longer content. There is a place for long form written content, long articles, but most of the time in marketing, that's not a good idea. Now, everybody's heard this quote, Theodore Roosevelt, people don't know how much you care until they know how, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And that's just a fact, people don't. So has anybody ever been at a cocktail party and one of your neighbors comes up to you, and for the first 35 minutes that they're talking to you, they tell you about how great their son is at baseball and how one day they're going to play in college and maybe make it to the major leagues, right? Has that ever happened? Or they're talking about their daughter's cheering, how she's a great, gymnast and she's a flyer in cheering. And she just talks about that the whole time. She never asks you how you are. She never asks you what you're doing. All she does is talk about herself. Well, the next cocktail party, do you avoid that person? Yes, you avoid them. You have no desire to talk to them. So you need to quit talking about yourself. Guess what? Your audience doesn't care about you at all. They care about what you're going to do for them, right? They care about the fact that you're going to make their seeds more productive to harvest more and have greater yield. That's what they care about. They don't care about your company. They don't care. They want to know what you're going to do for them. So quit talking about yourself. So the way that we help our clients understand that is we sit down and we say, what are 20 questions that your major audiences, your top personas ask, and what are they most concerned about? And it may or may not relate to your product, right? It may or may not relate to your product, but what are the 20 questions that they ask and that they need answers to, right? So we go through that, and when we're done, we begin to prioritize that. So Fuse is a division of AGCO. AGCO is one of the largest farming equipment companies, and Fuse is a technology division of that company. And we did this exercise with them, and when we came out, we had 21 questions that you can see some examples here. You know, what is the value? What's the ROI? How do I integrate this into my fleet? How much does it cost? Every customer asks that, right? How much training is required? What's the open approach versus closed approach? You know, they have these questions, and then what we did is we went through those questions and we said, are there any patterns to those questions? And the reason I suggest that is that now what we're trying to do is we're beginning to think like our audience. We're beginning to think like our customers, like the people that we are dealing with, rather than thinking from our perspective. We're practicing and going through an exercise to make us think the opposite way. The next step is you want to elevate the conversation. So many people talk about they want to develop, and I heard Charlie say it earlier, thought leadership. I would challenge you that thought leadership is only getting halfway there. I want to go into insight, and I want to go all the way to commercial insight. Commercial insight, you can read the quote, but commercial insight is when your thought leadership is bringing financial value, commercial value, breaking the status quo for your audience, breaking what they normally think. In the barter business, boom, I mean, I could barter video services for food? That's a great idea. For building a deck? Explodes my mind. I need to talk to you. But those are the kinds of things that we need to think about. How do we create that? Huh?
I said food tastes better on barter.
I mean, so again, we need to think about these things, about how are we creating commercial insight. And then what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to figure out what's the personal value. Who buys something, companies or people? People buy stuff. So we need to create personal value in the way that we deliver our content. Bring something of value to them. You know, the best content creates value to the reader or to the viewer or to the person that's reviewing the image, because then they're learning something, they're gaining knowledge, you're making them smarter, and you're beginning to reach them at a personal level, not just at a business level. Yes?
Could you tell me those 20 questions are about what? Those 20 questions?
They would be 20 questions. Great question, Scott. 20. When we do the 20 question exercise, what we're trying to do is say, if I'm the customer, what are the questions that I have? So one of the ways that we do it is we ask our sales guy, what are they asking you? What are our customers asking you?
I think you said they're not questions that they would be asking about you, but they would be questions that they would be asking.
They could be questions about you, about the topic, about the industry, any type of questions that the customers would have. Because what we're trying to do is think like the customer. And all this is building up to, what are the best content ideas? Remember the slide where the most interesting guy was there? I got to make interesting content. How do I do that? The perfect scenario is when my commercial insight, which is bringing value to the business of the industry, is also bringing personal value, which is engaging the needs and desires of the individual. When we create personal commercial value and personal commercial insight for our viewers and our readers, that's the trifecta. That's when we can absolutely keep their attention. We can keep them paying. We can keep them coming and wanting more, and we can also drive more ROI on all the content that we create. This is a video that we did for a client where we were trying to do that. And so what I hope you'll gain, so the company is Revigy. They're actually in that building right there. No, they're in this building. I'm getting confused. They're in that building right there. And what they do is they have created a software platform that works on top of a CRM tool that allows complex sales situations to be better managed. And so their challenge is, how do they get sales leaders to pay attention to the value that they bring? And so you can watch this video and see if we speak to the sales leaders.
Bob's office, this is Julie.
Hey, Julie, is Bob available?
Bob's with his boss, the CEO of our company, who is on a warpath because we missed our projections again.
So I guess he's not going to be able to join me for golf today.
I can't imagine he'd be able to.
All right, Julie. Well, thank you, and keep your head down over there, okay?
All right.
All right. Oh, missing projections and forecasts is a sales leader's worst nightmare. I should know. I used to rely on hopes, dreams, and a little bit of fairy dust to predict which deals would close. But now with Revigy, my team and I can build short and long-term projections with confidence. Check this out. Here are the key decision makers in a deal one of my reps just presented. When do you think this deal will close? Never, right? It took you just 2 seconds to figure that out without any explanation. You immediately saw what I saw. The only one voting for us is Steve Jacobs, and he has no decision-making authority. That's exactly what I told the account rep who is trying to forecast this deal for next quarter. Unless he can magically change 6 relationships overnight, it's not going to close. How about this deal? It's obvious we have all the stars aligned, and this deal will close any day now. You remember the old way of reviewing opportunities and account activity? It used to take forever, and you'd guess wrong more times than right. But with Revigy, we see the progress and know the true health of all our deals. We know which will close and what we need to work on to hit our projections every time. Oh, I have to go. My boss and I have a tea time. With Revigy, we see the way to win. On the way, I'm gonna kick your tail.
So the idea there is we did an entire series of videos all around different themes about see the progress, see the people, see the priorities, so that you can see the way to win. And we called them the winners and losers videos, or don't be like Bob. And that was a paid actor. I will tell you up front, they did not spend $1 gazillion to build these. They did 6 videos with us in one shot, and the total bill was about $4,800, and that included the talent.
That was not an employee of Revigy?
That was an actor.
And on a green screen?
He was on a green screen, yes, shot in a studio.
But you got 6 videos out of it. That was longer than a minute.
Right, and we knew that, but there was a series of them, and this is like the 3rd in a series. So we're kind of building and getting them to where they want to watch them, and we'll talk a little bit about video distribution and content distribution a little bit later. But we actually this video and the other 2 that are like preceding this all have been their most successful campaign in driving it home. Because what you noticed is we were driving home personal value to the sales leader. Like, who doesn't want to, if you're in sales, many of us in the room are CEOs, it means we are in sales, right? Who doesn't love to go play golf, right? I mean, we want to cut out and play golf. This guy's the sales leader, he gets to cut out and go play golf with his boss, while the other guy's getting yelled at. So immediately we're creating personal value. The other thing that you may or may not have noticed is we showed a demo of the product in there. So the guy's actually seeing a demo of the product in the context of getting value. And so we killed I shouldn't say killed a couple of birds with one stone, but we hit several key things that were critical to the viewer. And we're doing a whole series of, there's 12 more of these that are coming out, and they're different scenarios, different key things. This one focused more on the need for forecasting. And so we have a whole bunch of sayings that we're dealing with them. The idea in this series was to create it so that it would be binge worthy. So that's how we could sneak a little longer. That video was 2 minutes and 14 seconds, by the way. I don't know if anybody's clocking it. But you want to make content that's binge worthy. How many people recognize this show? Stranger Things, that's right. So what happens with Stranger Things is, they're about to drop season 3, right? And when they do, all of us are going to watch it in 9 hours. We're going to watch every bit of it. It becomes binge worthy. So we want to help you create content, or you need to be creating content that's like they read one, but they want to read the next, and they want to read the next, or they're waiting for that next commercial insight that you're bringing out. One of the ways we help our clients kind of think through that process is an exercise we call 30 and 30. So we take 30 minutes of this half-day workshop that I'm just kind of educating you guys about right now, and we take the first 10 minutes of this 30-minute window, and we break up into groups of 2 or 3, and we say, come up with as many creative title content ideas as you can in 10 minutes. And so everybody goes off into different corners of the room or different corners of the office, and they begin to write down on Post-it notes just titles of content ideas.
Who are these people?
Usually it's the CEO if it's a smaller company, along with a couple of his marketing people. When we did it with Fuse, it was their marketing department. So it's different people within the organization. We love it when we have sales leaders in the room as well. And then you sit down, and again, the idea is in a half a day, and all of the exercises I'm giving you guys could facilitate without us. I mean, we do this for our clients to help them create content ideas. It could be blogs, it could be tweets, it could be Instagram posts, it could be infographics, or of course it could be videos. It could be newsletters. It could be talks, sessions that they give, pitches that they give to trade groups. So they break away in 10 minutes. They come up with as many ideas as they can. Then we reconvene and we go through a rating system. And so we very quickly have everybody say, hey, this is an idea we had, and everybody's kind of making notes, and they're almost like giving it a rating scale in their own mind, and they're reviewing it, thus the little review thing. And that takes about 10 minutes. Once we're done with that, we go back and we sort them into just a simple good, better, and best. And the way I like to do it when I'm facilitating the workshop is I say, so I'm going to show you an example with Fuse, going back to them. We came up with like 56 or 63 ideas in 10 minutes. We had 7 people in the room. And so in 10 minutes, we came with that many ideas. We came back, we rated them, we took all 63 of them, and we said, how many of these which of these are good and which of these are better? And so we simply just sorted them into 2 stacks, good or better, good or better, good or better. Then we took the better ones and say, which one of these are better and which one of these are best? And very quickly, in less than 10 minutes, we were able to pick the top 20 ideas, and we even began to prioritize and score those ideas for them so that we could put them on a content calendar and begin to schedule that. It took 30 minutes. This could be in one of your management team meetings. In 30 minutes, you could come up with enough content ideas for an entire year. Delivery matters. So I love this picture because I'm about to have another grandchild, but delivery matters. You actually have these 2 charts. The one on the left is from the Content Marketing Institute and Marketing Profs. They kind of combined and did some surveys. The one on the right is from Cooler Insights. The reason I wanted to put them together is that on the left, all of these are different ways of delivering content. The percentage that you're seeing is the percentage of businesses that are using that type of content. So it's not what's most used, it's the types of businesses that are using it. So you see social media, e-newsletters, articles, blogs, in-person events. By the way, I don't care what business you're in, people do business with people. Getting in front of your people and in front of your clients and networking with them is one of the most valuable things. And marketers have forgotten it because they thought it could all be automated. There's more value in being with your clients, taking them to a ball game, showing them a little bit of your new stuff, than any blog I could ever generate or write for you, just by the way, because you get to talk to them and interact. in-person events, case studies, videos, that's my personal favorite, photos and illustrations. These are all examples of content types and the percentages of businesses surveyed that use them. On the right is the digital marketing sales funnel or digital marketing funnel. And so there's different types of content that are more effective at different parts of the buyer's journey, if you will. What we have found is that you can use, all of these can be used over here if they're used properly, but a lot of content is generated because I just want somebody to click and buy something or come and learn more. That's my whole goal. I'm not trying to sell anything. I want them to give me their email address. That's really all I want right now. Though they're getting bombarded with email, but that's a different issue. But you know, you're trying to create, you're trying to pull the customer down through the funnel to where they become raving fans or brand advocates. And so we see a lot of our clients using us to help in this area, believe it or not. Video is great at the top, but we're seeing a lot more of our clients creating content and creating concepts that are educating and making the customer smarter and helping the customer. If you think about your businesses, the 80-20 rule probably holds true. 80% of your revenue, profit, come from 20% of your customers. What are you generating for that 20%? We're always worried about getting new customers. What about the 20% that are generating the most profit? Are we helping them get better at what they're doing? And that's where we're seeing a ton of clients we're helping a ton of clients in that part of the funnel. 52% of marketing professionals worldwide claim that video is the best return on investment compared to other forms of content. I believe this because it's my business, but I also believe it because it's very engaging and thought-provoking. It is the stickiest type of content. There are tons of different types of videos that you can do, whether you're doing them in-house, whether you're outsourcing or you're letting someone like us do it. Interviews, talking head, explainer videos. Explainer video being an animated video where you're talking about something technical. Now I'll tell you that our research, and we produce a ton of videos and we host thousands of videos, is that explainer videos are better in technical fields, and they're also better when you're using it in front of the customer where you're standing there with them. So you're using it in the context of sales, of the sales funnel. The reason is that when you don't put a live human being on camera, you immediately disconnect from them. And here's the proof in the pudding. How many TV commercials do you see that are 100% animated? The percentage is very low. The biggest brands with the biggest pocketbook know that people buy from people and people want to see people. And so they're taking advantage of that. We are made for human relationships. So they're taking advantage of that, whether it's an actor. I have a slide, there's a thing that we do called, and I do like using internal people whenever possible. Sometimes you can't.
Everybody's as camera ready as I am.
I was going to ask you if you're available to.
Have to have professional talent.
I was going to ask you if you're available. We've got some clients that need your profile. Can we put you in a doctor garb and put a mask on and a hat? All we want is your eyes. But there's this thing that's out there that I call it, I feel like I know you effect. How many of you watch a regular TV show? Like there's a show that you watch every week. So I will admit it, I want to know what's happening to Meredith Grey, right? I want to know what's happening to Meredith Grey. She's not even a real person, but I feel like I know her. And I'm still watching that series, but that's the thing. There's this I feel like I know you effect. Case studies and customer testimonies.
She's got a new boyfriend, by the way.
Yeah, I saw. I'm very aware of that. I don't miss an episode.
Keep you up to date.
I love Vikings too. How many people watch Vikings? That's a great show. But and they're taking it off the air. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm really sad. But anyway, for businesses, testimonies and case studies are great because then you're getting your customers to tell the story. And you don't just have them talk about you, you have them talk about themselves. We have one client that did a series of videos that were literally customer stories, where they interviewed the customer and highlighted the customer 100%. And then at the end of the video, the marketing person came on the screen and said, "This is one of our clients. And if you'd like to learn more about how we're helping them grow their business, contact me." They never even mentioned their name except for at the beginning, at the end. It was all about the customer. So reviews, documentary, live streaming. Right now we're live streaming about 100 to 125 hours a year of live stream content. We have clients that are doing it both for internal and external communication, where they're live streaming events. So they're kind of playing that live, that in-person event, but they're scheduling it. It comes on the air at a certain time, and it's going beyond webinars. By the way, it's really going way beyond that. We have another client that has 1,300 employees in 18 states, and they do a live stream every month. It's about 35% of the time it's truly live. The rest of the time it's pre-recorded. So it's streamed at a certain time, and it's the way they're keeping those 1,300 employees connected to corporate here in Atlanta. And so the CEO's on the show, and it's a half hour to 45-minute show, and they call it Full Brew because the two guys on it are Fulcher and Brewer, and they drink coffee and they're just chatting with the employees, and it's a really cool concept. The next thing I'll tell you is don't be afraid of emotion. We've talked a little bit about this. So I love the analogy of the elephant, right? So the elephant is our emotional, intuitive self, right? It's the croc brain. It's the brain that really controls everything. The rider is our rational, conscious mind that we think. But basically what the rider does is it says, "Yes, I meant to go over there, elephant," because the rider really doesn't have any control. And so when I'm telling you that is you need to use emotion in your videos and in your content. You want to drive the emotion. Greed. There's not a business out there that doesn't want to make more money. That's a big emotional driver. Let me show you how using us will make you more money. Fear. Let me show you how you're not gonna lose your job by hiring us, right? Minimize risk. I mean, the list goes on. They want to be successful. They want to be winners. So here's a video that I think did a really good job of driving emotion into it. So Park Mobile, I don't know if you do any work for them, but they're one of our clients as well. And we produce all their video content. And here's just a short example of how they did a good job of putting emotion in it.
Life is about mobility. We are constantly on the move. From home to work, from work to home, with many stops in between, for lunch with a colleague, to watch your daughter score a goal, for drinks with an old friend. But getting from point A to point B isn't always easy. There always seem to be roadblocks getting in our way, roadblocks that are inconvenient and oftentimes infuriating. That's where Park Mobile comes in. We make technology that powers smart mobility for every driver, every vehicle, everywhere. Skip the parking meter and pay right from your phone. Reserve a parking spot from the dashboard of your car. Quickly navigate to areas of the city where there's plenty of parking. Find a spot where you can charge your electric car. Go to the game knowing exactly where you and your friends are going to tailgate. At Park Mobile, we want to help you get where you want to go and make that journey as easy as possible. Life is about mobility. We want it to be smart mobility. Park Mobile.
So what's cool about that video is that we used a combination of original content that was shot and generated and content that we purchased to keep the price down. But the storyline in there, we talked about children, we showed older people, we showed a lot of faces. I mean, there were the joy of seeing our daughter score a goal. You know, the joy of seeing an older couple still being romantic. You know, there's a ton of emotion in that video if you really watched it. And I just encourage you, don't be afraid of emotion. Business buyers are people too, and they like emotional draws. It will become more sticky.
That happen, I love it. Do you take the opposite viewpoint? To me, I got it because of the frustration of having to look for change and all that other stuff that comes with a parking meter. Do you have videos that show the other side of the coin?
Yeah, we probably produced 30 or 40 videos for them last year. So, and then as they go into new cities, this is their B2B, like when they're trying to pitch a new city, and they're trying to brand aware themselves. This is the video that they use to kind of put the mission out there to a city. And then we have a whole nother series of videos that we produce for that city. So we've done Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and San Francisco and Dallas.
Florida, is that, I have
Yep,
that out.
yep, Atlanta, and they're showing stadiums, and we're getting footage of that. I mean, it's a pretty cool, they're an ongoing. Yeah, yeah, they actually won the most innovative company at TAG on Tuesday. So the last thing that I'll leave you with is always tell it in a story. So this is kind of a classic example of a story. So we have the knight or the hero, and then we have the page or the guide. Which one are we? We should always be the page. The customer is always the hero. The customer should be the hero. So when you're writing your content, you're creating your ideas, you start with a character, which is the customer, who has a problem, who meets the guide, that's us. That guide then gives that character a plan that calls them to action that results in failure or success. If you follow that simple formula, now there's a book out there, I gave you the reference on the back of it, it's called Building a Story Brand. They've got a free website that you can go, it gives you this formula. But I'm telling you, this is one of the best methodologies to creating compelling content that's in the context of a story that I've ever seen. And we actually have some certified story brand guides, as they call them, that help us and help our clients sometimes write content. So the character with a problem meets us, we give them an idea of how to solve the problem, and then we help give them a call to action, and that results in success or failure. Going back to the video of Revigy, right? The problem is you're not getting you're not hitting your forecast. You know, you're the sales leader, you're not hitting your forecast. Let me show you how you can with my product. And now you're a hero, you're playing golf with your boss. So that element was in that story. Another way to look at it, and this is another great book, The Elements of Persuasion, Richard Maxwell and Robert Dickman. A fact wrapped in an emotion that compels us to take action. That's a good story, a good way to do that. So I know this slide is hard to read. According to NewsCred survey of those millennials, they will share content when they believe in the cause, when it's thought-provoking, and when it's funny. And that kind of goes back to that whole emotion. Laughter is an emotion. Humor is an emotion. Here's all of our, all the things, and all this information is on the back of the sheet I handed you. Hopefully this was useful. We had a lot of questions, so at least you're interactive. Any other questions? And I have my demo reel that I asked permission if I could show it to you guys. So I'll make one comment and then answer any questions. In that video probably represented just a small sampling of the stuff we did last year, because we did do over 1,500 videos. And I paid attention the other day, there was only one snippet of one video in there that cost over $5,000, and that was the UPS one. And I'll tell you why. It's because they wanted it all original art. And so every frame had to be drawn to create and meet their brand standards, get multiple approvals, and that's the only video in there that cost over $5,000. The rest of them, with maybe one or two exceptions, were under $1,000, because we do it in a lean video production process that really tries to maximize our resources. We're a professional service. We work an hour, we get paid an hour. And we don't charge you for camera rentals and stuff like that unless, my view as a business owner is if I've got to rent it more than twice, I should own it. And so every time I have to use something, if I use it more than twice, we just buy it. And fortunately, I've got the capital to be able to do that, but it makes us unique. And I would also say that about half of those videos were shot in studio, and that dramatically cuts the cost as well. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks.